Hey there, I'm Vi. Let's talk about work.
Like every job, we all have mixed feelings about it. Happy, excited, stressed, the list goes on. Work is essential to support our lives and sometimes the lives of others, supporting our families, loved ones, and our futures.
All different types of work bring us closer to levels of sustainability, success, and security.
But what happens when you're stripped of all of those rewarding attributes to your lives, but do work that most of society may not consider your work?
Sex work, the transaction of sexual services for currency or goods between consenting adults.
Why the term sex work over prostitution? Language is very important. We want to legitimize that sex work is recognized as work. To unlearn the stigma attached to sex workers, we must provide education and language that is for and by their community. Prostitution has always had connotations of criminality and immorality, which furthers stigma. That discrimination continues exclusion into health, legal, and social services, forcing sex workers to go underground. Because of this exclusion, people halt their understanding to this piece of the bigger picture.
Like every other worker, from service to financial industries, sex workers sell sexual services in order to earn a livelihood.
The majority of individuals who choose to do sex work is because it's the best option to earn income. Many sex workers struggle with poverty and destitution and have fewer options for work. Others find that it's their preference for many different reasons. Because of this stigma, it does not mean that we want to replace prostitution with sex work. However, sex work shifts society's focus to new language and an introduction to how prostitution is only a piece of the sex trade industry itself. Throughout history, sex work has provided all sorts of work for all kinds of folk. So who is typically a sex worker? It can be anyone, actually. It can be all types of people from all around the world, and it's more common than you might think. But because what we know about it is so limited, the lived experience is unseen underground due to the taboo notion of money and sex across the globe. Though underground, sex workers can be anyone you might know, from men, women, trans, and gender diverse folks. As diverse the sex trade industry can be, the most marginalized are the most targeted by violence, stigma, and danger. Of sex workers, Black and brown trans women have been centered to experience the most danger by abusive clients, pimps, and the police. Trans women of color are the most targeted of discrimination and pushed out of all institutions that grant safety, employment, and even healthcare. Sex work has been a vital tool for trans women of color to survive and thrive to their best capabilities. Some have become iconic leaders that created the most safe and historical spaces that the general LGBT community benefit from today. There are so many trans women of color who open space and opportunities for each generation of trans and gender diverse folks to live authentically and freely. From women in the mainstream, such as Marsha P. Johnson, T.S. Madison, and Janet Mock, to your local organizers like Utopia Washington. Utopia Washington has been a leading example of resilience by trans women of color here in Washington State. Utopia Washington has created Sex Worker Empowerment Initiative to create a safe space and resource Cutie BIPOC sex workers through services like our support groups, outreach, case management, and so much more. In solidarity to cultivate pathways for future generations of Cutie BIPOC folk, Utopia has set records in community building that are founded and led by former and current sex workers. To learn more about sex worker empowerment and education, I will be back to provide next week's presentation. For more information, contact us at support@utopiawa.org. Thank you.